Howdy, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Bjorn's Mighty Thoughts. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and today I have for you on my mind Star Trek Picard. Finally got a chance to sit down and actually watch the trailer in full. Did a bit of analysis with it, kind of threw together some theories and some things I'd like to see. So we're going to start with how it starts. It starts off in the vineyard. So obviously Picard, after leaving Starfleet, which we don't know why he's left Starfleet yet, um, returned to the vineyard. Now, this really doesn't surprise me, and I kind of like the direction they've gone with it. Um, Picard, over the years, over the seasons of Star Trek The Next Generation, talked about the vineyard and talked about how the vineyard wasn't for him. But to me, it kind of seemed like a place that he was always destined some way, somehow to go back to live out his remaining days. And that's exactly what he's doing. Now, he does come off during the trailer as not exactly being happy about this, which doesn't surprise me. He's an adventurer. He's always believed in adventure. That's why he joined Starfleet. He was always wanted to drive and be excel at everything he could do. Um, but he also realizes at some point or another, an old man's got to stop. Um, so there you go. He returns to the vineyard. However, they do make references that he does miss Starfleet, being in Starfleet multiple times, which that does not surprise me as well. And the fact that they took in the direction that he's I wouldn't say necessarily say he's miserable, but he's definitely not happy. Um, it really sets it off for me, as that's, I believe, how, in all honesty, it would be. Now that being said, now quick analysis. This is actually the com badge from the TNG era films, especially the later films, First Contact, um, Insurrection, and Nemesis. Now at some point, no details are really leaked yet on what brings her to this woman to Picard. I'm not exactly sure who she is. If anybody has any theories of who exactly she is, please feel more than free to put a comment in the video description. But she is definitely important. Just can't quite hammer down who she is. Um, so at some point, it seems like to me, as an analysis, Picard actually possibly had gone to Starfleet for help or action or whichever. Um, and in all honesty, looking at his face and his reaction as he talked to the Starfleet staff, it kind of seems like they either ignored him or denied him or shot him down. But basically, what it comes down to is I think Picard realizes that if anything needs done, he's got to do it himself. Which brings us to here. Somehow he's acquired a starship. Somehow he's acquired a new crew. I don't know if per se he's actually the captain of the crew, or if it's kind of one of those things where this crew is working this towards an objective. They do show a Borg cube, which looks to me to be some type of modified prison ship. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it is some kind of top secret facility. Um, and I have reasons for that. And I believe the girl may be tied somehow to this facility. Maybe she was here or anything like that, or they need to get information from here. Now, indication says that it is controlled by the Romulans. Um, we do get a rough estimate of timeline here. Um, what you have here, you see the Romulan logo, so obviously the Romulans have taken over the ship. That's the logo of the Romulan Star Empire. But you do see the rejuvenation chambers that the Borg would use in the background here. Um, but also you can see clearly the one Romulan soldier, and actually off to the side is another Romulan soldier. And you can see there's a sign here written in English or possibly Galactic Standard. Who knows what they would have called it. And then the other sign is written in Romulan. I suspect they actually say the same thing. And the sign says this facility has gone 5,843 days without any assimilation. Now that's kind of interesting, and what I suspect that's roughly what 15, 16 years. Um, I suspect this is probably 15 to 16 years after Picard uh, had ended his time in Starfleet. Well, maybe not Starfleet, but after Nemesis, um, is what I feel. That's kind of what my gut tells me. Is this is 15 to 16 years after Nemesis. Jerry Ryan does make an appearance during the trailer as Seven of Nine. There's no indication of what kind of capacity she's in. If maybe she's giving Picard advice or giving him information, or if maybe she even wants to join Picard. Um, I kind of hope she wants to join Picard. It would be nice to see another familiar face. However, I suspect it's more of an information-based capacity. So it's just more or less a cameo. At the end of the trailer, you see what looks to be Data, and the reason I'll get into a bit of why I think it looks to be Data, and Picard playing cards. Um, so there's going to be a cameo from Data as well. Once again, not sure what capacity he's going to be in. There's really no indication of his capacity in the trailer. But it does show him wearing a Starfleet uniform, which I found that quite interesting in itself. So we're back to the girl here. I'm going to go over some theories. The girl, I think, is. Now, I have multiple theories here. One theory is she's possibly some kind of Borg human hybrid. She could be some kind of genetic weapon or an experiment. Could be from Sector 31. Could be from the Romulans. In all I personally believe somehow she's more or less some kind of secret weapon that got out and is now kind of running amok. Um, and she actually turns to Picard for help. More or less, she needs a savior. Maybe wherever she was locked up, which, as I said, I believe she was a prisoner. I actually think she might have been in the Borg prison. Um, well, the Romulan Borg prison. I believe that um, maybe somewhere at the prison may have talked about Picard. Picard was, a very active captain within Starfleet during his tenure. And I would say when it comes to levels of captains, when you look at them and start splitting down records of what there is for canon and even some non-canon, Picard is as legendary as Kirk. That being said, um, I don't think she necessarily has any ties to to Picard. Um, but I think someone might have pointed her in his direction. But then again, who knows why? The next thing, the crew. I have some theories here about the crew. And most likely this is an easy theory. I think probably anybody could come up with this on themselves. I think the crew could some of the crew might be possibly children that were actually on the Enterprise D that knew Picard. Um, some of them might actually be Starfleet. Not quite sure if we have a Vulcan or a Romulan here. I do believe he is a Romulan. So actually, there's a part of me that tells me for a short period of time, it may have only been a mission. Who knows? That he may have played a part as an ambassador to Romulus. I suspect he actually recruited the individuals and not actually a crew per se. The next thing, now you do see in the trailer this body of what looks to be Data in pieces. Now that doesn't make sense to me because if you watch Star Trek Nemesis, it's pretty indicated that Data was completely destroyed. I think this actually is either lore or even more so, I believe it's actually before. Which, if everyone remembers, um, Data uploaded himself into Before's memory. And I think what you have here is he is reassembled and is actually per se now Data, because essentially Data's memories would have just took over. I think what you're seeing here is maybe a mission went astray and essentially Before was disassembled, or maybe even Starfleet themselves actually ran uh, a series of tests and experiments on Before, trying to essentially re-engineer Dr. Son's work, uh, pretty much making artificial intelligence and artificial life forms. If you remember, I don't remember the name of the episode, but during TNG, there was an episode where essentially Data was given his rights essentially as per se as a living person. Um, that being said, though, the way that was written, that only extended to Data. It didn't extend to Lore, and it did not extend to Before. So, yeah, Starfleet might have ran experiments on Before, and that's who I think this is. I actually think it's Before Data pretty much had taken over Before. Um, Now, some things I'd like to see. Nothing's been confirmed yet, but I would like to see Jonathan Frakes return as Captain Riker. And actually, to be specific of what I'd like to see, I would actually like to see some way, somehow, maybe per se Captain Riker, or maybe even Admiral Riker by this point, helping out Picard against the wishes of Starfleet. And the reason I say that is because Riker in his early career was more of a rebellious commander, kind of a hot shot and things like that. Um, but I think he should really return, especially because this Riker was probably the closest friend to Captain Picard. Not saying that was his only friend. I'd also like to see Worf in some kind of capacity, and obviously I'd like to see Michael Dorn uh, reprise his role as Worf. Now I suspect we're not going to see a Worf of Starfleet. I suspect we're going to see a Worf of the Klingon Empire, in much of the capacity of what you see in Star Trek Online, if you so happen to be a Star Trek Online player. Obviously, if you're not, you can just Google that. The next thing I'd like to see, and this would probably send me nerdgasms, is the return of Q. Unfortunately, I doubt, because of how the Q are, you're going to see this Q, which is actually kind of sad, because I think, in all honesty, I think if Q found out somehow Picard was jumping stars again, I think Q would have an absolute nerdgasm and would pop in just to say hi. Oh, and spice things up and be a thorn in Picard's side like he always did in TNG. So honestly, I would like to hopefully see a return of Q. We're going to see how that works out. But anyway, folks, that is going to be the end of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you have any theories or thoughts of the trailer yourself, don't be afraid to share them. I'd obviously like to hear what other people think. There's so many theories out there about this right now. And yeah, there's the trailer really doesn't give much to go on. But anyway, folks, hopefully you liked the video. Please remember to subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy the video, to see other videos much like this one and other content I do post. Also, like the video if you did enjoy it. But anyway, folks, thank you very much again for watching. Have yourselves a good, enjoyable week.